So I want to turn this video into a UV-9G review / comparison to the UV-5X. All right, what's up everybody? So before I start this review, I wanted to talk about how impressed I was how they fit everything in such a tiny little box. So once I got everything out and looked in there, you would think that you were done. But my curiosity of just wanting to see what else is under here, I took this thing out and I found this small little bag in there. And it took me a minute before I finally figured out what this little thing was. It's actually a little label. And if you look at the radio, it has a tiny little groove here, right there, where that label, that little piece of clear plastic slides over it and slides right into that groove down there. You take the piece of paper and it fits into a small little indentation there and slide it down into the groove. Pop your battery back on and you have a nice little label for the bottom of your radio. It's kind of neat. It's not mentioned in the owner's manual, so you wouldn't know it by looking in the owner's manual either. So it was just my curiosity that made me pick that up and look down in there and found that little label inside there. Now there's a little downside to that piece. I mean, you take the battery off, this thing just slides right out. So once your battery's off, you're gonna have to hold it to make sure that piece of paper don't fall out. So, but kind of cool. When I seen that, I went back and looked into the box of my UV-5X radios to see if that also had it, but it wasn't in the box. So I purchased this radio. It just came out. I think I watched the first video on it, and I went to Radiodity and bought it before it was sold out. And my main reason for buying this radio was the fact that it's waterproof. I wanted something a little more reliable for outdoors, if I want to go camping or something like that. In case it gets wet, I'll be protected. It does put out a little more power than the UV-5X does. So that was another reason why I picked it up. I think the Nada Rubicon guy tested it at 4 watts, which isn't a whole lot, which isn't the most in a handheld like this, but it is a step up from the UV-5R or the UV-5X. Another reason was because it's a new radio and I wanted it, you know. I wanted something better. You can also program some DIY channels. Basically what it is, just like other GMRS radios, you have your 8 repeater channels. Well, it gives you 3 extra sets of 8. So you can pretty much program the same frequency 4 times with 4 different tones programmed in. I do plan on upgrading the antenna on this also. Unfortunately, they're sold out right now. I think a lot of guys who bought this radio jumped straight to the antenna, and the antennas are sold out right now. So also, I'm hearing with the antenna here that with the 771G, I want to also mention it's a female connector. So when you get your antenna, you'll have to order a female connection. So when I ordered the 771G, I originally ordered it for this radio, and I got the wrong one. So you have to get the SMA female antenna to fit on the UV-9G. So I'm gonna do a couple tests on it. I don't know how much more of a test I can do, with what I already did with my other radio. But I will do some tests on it, program some channels in, and we'll see how this thing works. Also, the charger that comes with it, you cannot use the same charger as this UV-5X. It's a whole different charger. So it is also a different battery. It's the same 1800 mAhs as the 5X, but it's a different style of battery, so it doesn't fit the same battery. It's a little more longer. I'm gonna get this thing connected back together here and start doing some tests on it, and we'll see how this thing performs. Okay, so after playing with this radio for a few hours, I noticed right away there's some real differences to this radio. Some good, some bad, than to this radio here, the UV-5X. So I'm gonna officially change this video from UV-9G review to UV-9G review / comparison to the UV-5X for that reason. Going back and forth between channel mode and frequency mode, you have a dedicated button here, which makes it pretty convenient to go back and forth. Whereas on the UV-9G, it doesn't have a dedicated button. So you pretty much have to hold down the menu button with the radio turned off, turn it on.
Frequency mode.
You're in frequency mode. Turn the radio back off, hold the menu button, turn the radio back on.
Channel mode.
And you're back in channel mode. So it does have the same features as the other radio, but it's just not as easy to use or as convenient as having the button right there ready to use. Also on the UV-5X, you have a dedicated channel A and channel B button.
Frequency mode.
Taking you back and forth no matter which mode you're in. You go back and forth like that. On the UV-9G, you don't have that dedicated button, but you can use the exit button to take you between channel A and channel B, which is okay. It works. It has the function, just a different button to use. Also, your scan button's on the bottom down here, whereas on the UV-5X, your scan button is up under here, under the exit button. So there are a few things that I have little gripes about. There's little differences, but nothing that major that I wouldn't buy this radio. Another thing that was kind of disappointing was not with the radios themselves, but with the actual hardware here. If you look at the bottom here, I have two of the same hardware. This is the stock program for the Baofeng. So once I got the radio and plugged it in, I opened up the software. Well, the software didn't recognize my radio. So I had to go to Reality and download a second software, which is right here, that was designed for the UV-9G. So I have to have two separate softwares for two separate radios. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. Now, opening up the software, it looks just like the other one for the UV-5X, except you're gonna have the DYI channels, or DIY channels, 1 through 8. Oh, actually 1 through 24. 1 through 24. Which is pretty good. Now, the one thing I don't like about this software that I definitely think needs to get fixed is going to be down here at the NOAA channels. So if you look here, I can pretty much click the first one and I can turn the scan ad, I can turn it off and I can turn it back on as I please. But all the NOAA channels below it, it won't allow me. Now, I have a cell phone that I check my weather with every morning. I understand the reason for the NOAA channels, I just don't need it right now. So I would like to get these channels off of my radio as far as the scan ad. And you can't. So number one off the bat, all these NOAA channels, I pretty much, in order to get them off the rotation, I pretty much had to delete the channels out of my radio. And I had to do that because NOAA channel number 2 here, which I can't modify, or I can't do anything here with NOAA channel number 2. I can't take it off the rotation for the ad scan. That's the main channel in my area that broadcasts the weather. So every single time my radio is scanning, it stops at the NOAA channel and tries to broadcast the weather. And so I had to actually go in the radio and delete all the NOAA channels out of my radio completely to get rid of that. So the downside to that is anytime I come into this software and try to either add a repeater or take a repeater away or something like that and redo it to the radio, I have to go back in and manually delete all those NOAA channels. So that's my biggest gripe out of the whole thing. One more thing I want to mention with this radio is that every channel had tones already programmed in, which was kind of inconvenient for me to have to go in there and take the tones out of each one of them. I don't know why they did that. So another little inconvenience with this radio, but it was fixable, but it just took some time. Now that I'm finished with the downsides, let me talk about the good side of this radio in comparison to the Baofeng UV-5X. The good thing about this radio here is that it does have a little more power. And even though it has the same milliamps of the battery, this radio does last longer than this radio here. It takes about the same amount of time to charge. It takes about 4 hours. But I've had this on since yesterday morning. I had it scanning all day. I was talking for about 45 minutes to the guys on my local repeater. And I had it scanning pretty much all night. It's after 1 o'clock the next day, and you can see the battery level there. Still has 2 little points, 2 little bars. So I could probably make it a good 2 days with just moderate use, I guess, scanning with moderate use, which is a good thing. Second good thing I like about this radio, like I said, is the power. I don't have a tester here, but I've watched a few other videos that put this radio here at 4 watts. This definitely has more power. I did say that this was not a replacement for this radio, but I have to say that once you go through all the crap to get it programmed, which is, for some people, maybe they just don't want to deal with that and they won't order the radio at all. But for me, I have plenty of time on my hands. It is aggravating. I go in, get everything set up the way I want. Now, I can talk better on this radio here. So, a lot of guys don't know that I talk to my local repeater. They don't know that when I'm talking to them on this radio here, there's some repeaters that I come and go real staticky. And I actually have to go outside of my yard and talk to these guys from that repeater. Now with this radio here, I can talk in the repeaters sitting right here from the comfort inside my house, which is a good thing. So this is slowly turning into my #1 radio. Even though there are some things about it that I don't like, it's turning into the radio that's in my hands and goes with me everywhere I go. Because I know no matter where I go, I'm going to get more power with this one and more reception. And people just hear me better on this one. That was the main thing. I could hear a lot of people on this radio here, but to get them to hear me, I had to go to different parts of the room or go next to the window, or if some nights I just had to go outside. But this one here, I'm definitely able to cut through the walls of this house, sit back in my chair next to the TV, talk to the repeaters, and they hear me loud and clear. So this is definitely an upgrade to this one as far as that's concerned. Now there are some issues with the software and stuff like that. I am gonna do some tests just for the hell of it. I'm gonna go out and do a long distance straight line test to see how far I can go with this thing. I gotta find some places to do it. So there are definitely some issues with this radio that I personally don't like. I was kind of spoiled with this one here to have all the features. Also, I think this was a more thought out radio just because there's a couple versions of it. Even down to the volume button here, you can see it's so much easier to just play with the volume and turn it off and on. And it just feels better on this radio. Whereas this one here, the UV-9G, your volume button's protected by this piece of plastic here. So in order to comfortably play with the volume on this, you got to come with your left hand and get in there on its side. and turn it off and play with the volume here. And I found myself a few times when the radio's turned up a little too loud and somebody's coming in, I want to get here real quick and turn the volume down. It's a pain because this little plastic gets in the way. Now I understand why it's there, because if this radio ever falls, I'm guessing when the radio comes down on the antenna, it's gonna hit that piece of plastic and protect your volume button. So it is a good thing. Whereas the UV-5X just feels so much better. It's so open. It's right there. So definitely some issues with this radio so far, but it does have its benefits as far as the power and people hearing you better. So it is an upgrade / downgrade, I guess you can say. Also, how can I forget, one of the biggest things about this radio is this USB connection. It is kind of a pain in the ass to have to unscrew this to plug it in to connect to the computer. It's not so bad that it's bothersome to me, but it is a lot easier with this one here, just to open this up and plug the cable in. Whereas this one here, you have to unscrew this. So what I find myself doing is I unscrew this, take this piece off. The cable actually clicks on with this piece here, so it kind of anchors itself into the radio. Matter of fact, I'll just do a little quick demonstration. Okay, so once you unscrew that piece, I'm careful not to unscrew it all the way, because it is hard to pull this out. So I leave the screw in so I can use it as like a little a handle to pull it out with. And once you get this piece anchored in here like this, see this little tab goes right into that little spot right there. Once you get that piece anchored in there, that screw is meant to go in that hole to hold it in place. But I don't do that. Once that piece is anchored in, when I'm ready to program, I just hold that in place like that where the screw is. It keeps it pretty tight to do the programming, and when I'm done, I just let it go. And then put this piece back in and do the programming that way. So, sort of a shortcut, I guess, to something that's awkward. I also want to talk about one more thing before I forget. I want to talk about this belt clip. I'm not really feeling this belt clip. So there's a screw in the back here that you unscrew. You screw this piece down, and then you take the belt clip and slide it in place. So in other words, when you put it in your belt, it's hanging like this. And to me, that's bothersome for me. I'm not the kind of person who puts my radio on my belt clip anyway. But I like the clip on my UV-5X because I can easily go like this and stick it into the visor, the sun visor in my car. And I just kind of look up at it, and that's where I see what's going on if I hear the radio going in the sun visor. Or this radio here, it's going to be dangling, you know, and even if it's from your hip, I mean, that's weird. If you're running or walking or doing something physical, you're going to have your radio swinging back and forth on your hip. I don't know. I don't like that at all. Then you got to really push to get this thing back out. So after wrestling with this thing to get it off, I leave that there just in case at some point I do want to put it on for some weird reason. Other than that, if it's not on my sun visor in the car, it's in my pocket. So don't really need it other than to clip it in my car. At some point I might get something for the car to put it in so it stays there. But I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I forgot anything else here. So I'm gonna get that thing put back in place once I finish the video here, but that's pretty much it so far, my review of the UV-9G. So my overall thoughts on this radio so far is that, yeah, it has its issues with the software and stuff like that, but once you get this thing up and running, you have a radio that's pretty powerful. It's got a decent battery, it's waterproof, and it only costs $40. So for the price of the radio for $40, you really can't beat that. So that's pretty much it. I hope this helps anybody who decides they want to go out and order this radio. But other than that, that's really all I have to say for now. I guess stay tuned for the next video. I'll be doing some more tests on this one. All right, so one of the fun things about a new radio is, and I'm pretty sure most people want to see, is a little field test. So I'm going to try and get on my front-facing camera here. I'm in Egypt, Pennsylvania, by a fire company. And the city of Allentown is way out there. Okay, so that's Center City, Allentown, right out there where my finger's at. That's 6.6 miles from where I'm at. So I'm gonna call my son up and we're gonna see if he can hear me on the radio here. This is WR. Jeremiah, do you copy? Jeremiah, do you copy?
I copy.
All right, how am I sounding over there? Do I sound clear? You sound pretty clear to me.
If I listen well, I can hear.
Okay, so it's not perfect. We can hear each other, but it comes and goes.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, 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 hello.
Who is this?
Your father. How do I sound over there?
Crystal clear. Crystal clear.
Okay, so right now we're crystal clear. I'm not sure which way you're holding your antenna, but keep it there. And it seems like there's certain conditions going on that you sometimes you hear me and sometimes you don't.
I'm pointing it in the direction of the Coca-Cola Stadium.
Okay, perfect. So that's pretty good. I'm 6.6 miles away. I guess it does depend on which way you hold your antenna, but yeah, you sound pretty good up here where I'm at.
I started pointing in the opposite direction and you started cutting out.
Okay, well for me, I'm pointing the antenna straight into Allentown, and I'm getting you crystal clear also. All right, I won't keep you too long. I'll let you get back to what you're doing there, but see you when I get home.
Okay.
Pretty much loud and clear, 6.6 miles away, and I'm pretty happy. I mean, it's what's expected. He's in the city, but he's not in a direct clear line of sight. There's houses in front of him, so he's getting up over the houses and coming over here. So what I want to do is, the next test I do, I want to get from this location all the way out there to that blue mountain. You can kind of see right out there. I think that's the blue mountain. Oh no, that's the South Mountain. I'm pretty close to the blue mountain right now. That's going to be the South Mountain down there. So I'm going to end this video. It's nice to have a little field test and get to hear what's going on with the radio. So it does sound pretty good. I'm happy with the results. Stay tuned for the next test. I'm going to do this radio. We're going to be switching out antennas. I want to get to that mountain over there from here. So I'm 6.6 miles from here to my house in the city. And from my house into the city to the other mountain is 5 miles. So it's going to be a little over 10 miles, the test. And pretty much what I'll do is I'm going to keep trying to find different mountain ranges at different elevations in the area here. That I'm going to try to get as far away as I can and just do some tests to see how far these things can really go. So at this point, I'm going to say to everybody, thanks for watching. I appreciate all the comments that I get from you guys, all the feedback. I'm still in the learning process here. So see you guys at the next test. I'm actually standing right above some kind of a rock quarry here. And let me get out of here because I'm actually, like I said, I'm by this fire station here. You can see the Egypt Fire Station, fire company. And let me get out before the cops get called to me for being in their parking lot. So, all right, thanks for watching and see you guys next time.